Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Chris Saunders, and I'm pleased to have on with me a senior catcher, plays everywhere else except pitcher in the circle for Berlin softball. Jessica Pettit was with me. She'll be at UNH in the fall, but currently with her squad with Berlin in the playoffs. 14 wins. Has I think the conference tournament, if I recall, coming up. Then you've got obviously states because it's like 3 weeks of a marathon, right? It just flies by. But Jessica, I appreciate you coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
So I kind of want to dive into the whole softball catching aspect, right? Because I've been watching the regionals over the last couple of days, and I've been able to catch some games throughout the season too. But being able to watch a catcher, especially from how short you are from the circle, right? And having to be able to do the things that 60 feet, 6 inches, obviously the velocity and everything, smaller baseball from baseball, a little bit different, but still. Take me into that a little bit because there's a lot to go with being a catcher in softball.
I would say yes, definitely like catchers have a lot going on and a lot in their plate during the game. And I would say at first, like that connection with your coach with like pitch calling was like I have a great bond with my pitcher. And I would say just being able to like know your pitcher and like what she would want to throw and what she wouldn't want to throw, or like
Mhm.
what's working and what's not working. And I would just say like applying all of that, and then on top of that, looking at your field because you have the field in front of you. So looking at where your outfielders are, if they need to like move in or not, or your infield, making sure you're calling out plays on where to go. So I
Mhm.
was like all that having. I at at my start like starting to catch, I kind of felt like that pressure, but kind of having so many years of catching, I kind of used to it. But yeah.
Now, when did your coach trust you with calling pitches? Because I know for some schools, baseball or softball, a lot of times it's the pitching coach or it's the head coach who's the one calling the pitches. But I've seen teams throughout the years where the catcher is the one with the signs. So when did your coach feel comfortable with you calling a game?
So at for it like varies because my head coach, Jason Pyrus, he mostly calls, but at times like he'll be like, okay, like Jess, you got this one, or like say we'll be beating a team by a lot, he'll be like, okay, like you'll finish the innings, but
Oh, how nice. He lets you finish when it's like 20-5. How nice. How nice.
nothing and we're winning. But I would say he definitely knows, like he trusts me a lot, which we have like that connection where I'll be like, look, like this isn't working today, like we can't throw this. Or like he has like he looks at my input and Madeline, our pitcher's input, and definitely like takes that to heart too. Like we'll meet before games and like go through like the pitches and be like, okay, this is working. Like this definitely we're gonna use. Or like for a two strike pitch, we're definitely gonna aim for this. So we definitely have like a game plan before games, definitely.
When you're talking to Coach Pyrus, right? And that's his name, right? Pyrus, you said? So when you're talking with him, right, and you're trying to, I mean, is there ever a point where, because a lot of times it's the other way around, where the coach is giving the player too much information. You're like, hey, slow down, slow down. I can
Mhm.
only get so much through the brain, right? Is there ever a time where, because you strike me as someone who kind of sees the game in a different way, do you kind of sometimes give him too much information? He's like, Jessica, you got to slow down. You're giving me too much here. Is that ever happened once or twice?
Sometimes, or sometimes like it'll be a really intense game. Like this actually happened in like Windsor when we played Windsor, and I was like, he called a pitch and it was like rise, and I was like, behind my glove, I was like giving him like, yo, we should change like the pitch and do a change up, and he was like, no, no, like we can't fool around, like we just gotta get the third out, and we'll go back and hit. But other than that, like sometimes I wouldn't say I overwhelm him with information. He appreciates when I talk a lot and tell him a lot of information.
I like the part. Yeah, I don't want to fool around. I like that part. I could picture him. I don't know what he looks like, but I could picture him in the dugout saying that, where like, I don't want to mess around here. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, speaking of the Rise Ball, and I was listening to a broadcaster, I think it was during the Oklahoma State regional game. They were just playing a couple hours ago. I think they won. They were up by a decent amount. They were talking about the Rise Ball and how the pitcher that was in the circle is able to. And now I can't see how this makes sense. You could probably help me with this being a catcher. where she's able to start the rise ball at the lower part of the zone, so like at the knees, and
Mhm.
able to get it to keep, hence rise going up, right? And I was thinking to myself, well, a rise ball I would think would have to start chest and then go up to have effectiveness. But is that something you've seen as well, being able to start lower and have it go up?
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, and especially like hitting too. I've seen that like Southington's pitcher has a nasty rise ball where you'll really see like it'll be low or like kind of at your waist and it'll tail up.
Really?
And yeah, that pitch is definitely very nasty. But it definitely does do that. There's all sorts of like grips, obviously, with rise balls and pitches.
Mhm.
So definitely on how the pitcher like grips it, but definitely different ways to throw it.
I gotta tell you though, my favorite pitch when I play baseball and then obviously calling games for baseball or softball, love the changeup. I think the changeup is one of those pitches where, and I get a rise ball, four seam, two seam, like you could throw it a couple ways. I've seen more changeup grips throughout my years talking to coaches, players, catchers, more so than I have, I think, any other pitch because you can throw that multiple ways and the way that you can make a changeup cut. I mean, as a catcher, cut, dip,
Oh yeah.
rise to a set. Yeah, everything. Like, speak to that if you can, please.
Yeah, so our pitcher now throws two specific changeups, and at first, like growing up, she would always dabble with like a third other one, but once
Mhm,
like I got into high school, she kind of like locked in both of the two. But there's definitely even as like a batter
mhm.
facing ups, those that go outside, there's some that tail right outside or like will look like it's coming in and it'll go like kind of like a curve out, but it's like off speed, so it obviously gets the batter. But I would say definitely nowadays there's so many. Like you can definitely see there's some pitchers that give it away. So at first, like they'll flip their hand like that and it'll be like a flip change and you could see it coming out like of their hand. So other than that, and then there's like a circle change that also is very effective on the outside corner. But yeah, nowadays, boy, there's so many.
Now, when you're in the dugout in between innings when you're not catching, and obviously you guys are playing offense, right? And you're hitting and such. Are you watching the pitcher to pick up on, like you just said, the flip change? You could tell by the hand. Now, obviously, I can pick up on baseball more than I can a softball pitcher on if a pitcher's tipping, if he's doing something. But softball, I have not been able, maybe because I haven't watched enough, and obviously I didn't play, so I have not been able to pick up the tells
Mhm.
without revealing too much, because if you can do that, that's awesome, and don't reveal it. But what are some things that you've kind of noticed throughout your years as far as watching that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah. I definitely can pick up on it, obviously, like through my freshman year and now being like a senior. Funny story, actually, at our game against Windsor again, I saw her change up and I turned to our pitcher and I was like, right when she saw it too, I was like, that's flip change. And she was like, yes. Like we both like registered it at the same time. But I would say definitely like their hand could give it away too, and like how I said with the flip. And sometimes if they slow their motion up, sometimes that's obvious too. But yeah, I'm kind of locked in when I'm in the dugout looking at the pitcher and stuff.
Now I know for baseball, I know sometimes the glove can be kind of like a tell or the way the pitcher lands. I know there was a pitcher years ago that played for the Yankees, a team that you and I know very well, Tyler Clippard, right? This is years ago. I remember he was pitching against the Mets, had a great career, pitched for the Mets, the Nats, the Yankees, and so on. I think Oakland too or something. But he had a tell where if he landed straight towards home plate, it was a changeup, it was an off-speed pitch. But if he fell towards the first base side, where he was just all legs and elbows and finished away and kind of his body was going right to left, then it was going to be a fastball or a two seam. And he kind of picked up on that and changed it. Now for softball, is that kind of the same thing? Like, where does that come into play too?
I would say for softball, it's like a little bit different because it's not really kind of more obvious where like they're landing, because every pitcher has like a different stance and how they end.
Mhm.
Um, but I would say definitely like with drop, so the drop pitch can go in or out. And I would say definitely if the pitcher like kind of shoves her shoulder over or like drop curve like shoves her shoulder over and lands kind of towards like how you said like first base and towards the left, I feel like that's more obvious that you could pick up on. I haven't really I could see it being a catcher, like from a catcher's standpoint, but like kind of from hitting and being in the batter's box, I don't really look at that because obviously it's the ball's coming and I'm not really looking at where she's like landing. But I
Mhm.
would definitely say some of that gives it away too.
No, you know, I want to kind of change a little bit towards the season, right? Because obviously the regular season has come to a close. You guys have won the amount of games, as I said, 14. You're in the NCCC, which I did not know. So thank you for telling me that. I was going to say a whole other conference. Take, you know, how many times during your time at Berlin have they made the conference tournament?
We didn't make it the last 2 years. In my freshman year, we did. So my junior and sophomore year, we didn't. We fell short, and then this year we did. So
So the freshmen that you came with, so yourself, which now being a senior, how many other seniors are on the team?
I'm actually the only senior.
Really? Okay. So senior night must have been very quick. All right. Pettit,
Yeah,
one and done.
yeah.
Jeez. Well, I mean, that's great for Berlin because of what they have coming back, right? But obviously, when you graduate, that's going to be a big loss. And I'm sure Coach Pyrus will be very, very sad for that, especially having the conversations that it seems like you guys have had about the pitching and all that such. But to go back to that, being able to be back in the conference tournament, that's got to be for your last year. You've got to be ecstatic.
Oh yeah. I'm really excited for it. I can kind of feel like the sadness because um after our last like season game,
Mhm.
Pirates was like, yeah, just has two guaranteed games, and then like the rest is just like up in the air. So like that kind of hit me, where it was like that because these girls that I've been playing with, I've been playing since I was 6 years old. Like
Oh,
start
wow.
with like a core group of us, so like it's definitely gonna really set in.
So when
What?
you were playing when you were younger with your teammates, because I know every town I know has like a pipeline, right? Has like a farm system, quote unquote, right? Where you kind of grow up through, and if you're able to stay at your hometown and not go to a prep school, private school, etc. Is Berlin, and I have not been to Berlin much. I'd like to get out there sometime. I know there's a lot of really cool things. Is Berlin a big town, small town? What are we talking about here?
We're I would say like a medium-sized town. We're not really like big, but we're not really small.
Okay.
People be kind of like surprised. Like you've heard of the Berlin Turnpike?
Oh,
Like
all the time. There's accidents all the time.
yeah, so like the Berlin Turnpike, like if you go up the Berlin Turnpike, you'll hit like Newington and
Yep.
then on like Meriden and stuff. People don't really realize like how far that goes down.
It's wild.
Um, but yeah, so I would say we're like a medium-sized town.
Okay. So being able to grow up with your teammates and kind of see everybody mature at their own way, like that's got to be pretty, fulfilling in a lot of ways because like you all, like you just said with your pitcher being able to read the flip on, being able to read pitchers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got to be all kind of like reading each other's minds, right?
Yeah, yeah. We all you could tell we all think alike and we yeah.
That must drive Coach Pyrus crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, at times he's just like, "What?" Like shaking his head.
Now, is Pyrus an older coach, a younger coach? I don't know him too much. What's he like?
He's been coaching I don't know how many years, but he's been Brown's coach for a long time and he also coaches basketball and volleyball too. So
Does
he
he?
oh yeah. But softball's obviously his favorite, which I know he would back me up on that. So
So he's and I don't mean this in a bad way. He's an old head, right? He's an old guy. But hey, you know what? Who knows? Maybe they'll get a statue for him for how long? Because it sounds like he's a Berlin lifer, right?
he always says that on how his high school has like a statue of him since he's like yeah. He'll always use that and we'll always look at him like, what are you saying?
Wait, is he saying that he wants a statue, or his high school has a statue of him?
His high school actually doesn't, but like he says there is. But
What high school did he go to? Is he from Connecticut?
probably gonna pronounce it wrong, but it's like Bucknell. It's like a bulldog mascot. That's all I know.
You mean Bunnell? That one?
Yes.
Yeah, they're
But
in the SWC.
yeah. We actually ended up playing them. I forgot. It might have been my sophomore year. And we were playing them, I think for state, like in our, it was either conference or states.
Mhm.
And that's when he was talking about how he's very popular in that school and everything.
He must have felt like he was so cool walking down, must have been shaking hands, kissing babies right before the game, right? That's so funny. But I mean, in all due respect, much respect to Coach Pyrus. I mean, I don't know him. I appreciate him allowing you being able to come on. And it sounds like he's a guy that really means a lot to Berlin. And honestly, to have coaches like that, it's one thing. And obviously, coaches come and go for various reasons, either to move up, family. I see that happen a lot here in the NVL, especially with younger coaches who are having a family. But being able to have a guy like him stick around, I mean, he's probably had your if any of your teammates have had older sisters, right? He probably had them playing too, right?
No, yeah, definitely, yeah.
So that's got to be, the stories must be epic if he gets to that part, right? Where he's telling those.
Yes, yeah.
So before I let you go, Jessica, and I appreciate you coming on, to go to the state tournament really quick, because I just want to get to that. How far has Berlin made it during the state tournament? Have they made it far in the last couple of years? Take me into that a little bit.
So actually, funny story to that, we haven't made it far, just to round two.
Okay.
Last year was to round two and the year before. And
Mhm.
we were doing so good my freshman year. We were like 19-1, had a perfect seed, and then ended up getting blown out by Fitch. So that was definitely, but that kind of like set kind of my high school career being like a freshman and looking at all that.
Mhm.
Um, but I would just say I have high hopes for us this year that we're gonna do some damage because people look at Berlin and they're like, oh, Berlin, like you don't see these top. We're not on those top lists and rankings that come out, right? Like no one looks. So
Well, I
hopefully,
know people look at the list. People look
yeah.
at the list, but they don't. And it's funny that you say that Berlin's not there. And I don't vote. I used to vote a couple years ago, and there's so many good teams. There's always going to be a couple that are left out. But
Oh
like you mentioned, the fact of people maybe kind of maybe sleeping on Berlin, quote unquote.
yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing because then you guys will. I'm sure you won't sneak anybody up because of obviously the respect that people have for Berlin. But if you guys are to say, I don't know, let's say you make it to a quarter or a semi, or let's say you make it all the way. I don't know if that's going to surprise too many people within softball, but maybe outside, like myself, who's trying to catch up on history a little bit, maybe to a certain degree, be like, oh, wow, okay. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely, because we definitely Coach Pyrus uses it like for us as fuel to be like, no one's looking at Berlin. Like, no one expects, like, when states start, they do like that whole ranking thing or
Yep.
like their positions on the bracket and everything. I would definitely say no one really, he's like, no one's going to put Berlin on there. They're going to put us for first round, like, so I feel like using that as fuel and definitely like, kind of holding it like, oh my god, like to work even harder as
Mhm.
like him and as myself. That's definitely been something we all use.
Well, I can tell you now that I'm looking at, because I didn't have a chance to look at it before we started. I can tell you right now, Masick is going to take a lot of the helium, a lot of the oxygen, because obviously when you five-peat like they have, I mean, they're like a monster. And
Oh
then,
yeah,
North Haven's excellent. And then Guilford, I know the last couple years has always been a very, very competitive team. And there's other teams up there, St. Joe's as well, got to give them respect. So when you think of it like that, it's almost like, and I don't know if Coach Pyrus is thinking this, but like, you know what? You guys take all the attention. We'll just kind of sneak our way through and just keep doing what we're doing. Does that make sense?
he definitely, yeah, he's said that multiple times too. Yeah.
It's almost like I read his mind a little bit. Hey, Jessica, I appreciate you coming on. Best of luck as far as in the conference tournament in states. And I didn't even mention too, you going to UNH as well. Really quick, how excited are you to be able to go to UNH? I know you told me not a funny story, but a cool story about the now head coach was your substitute teacher, or yeah, substitute teacher in sixth grade, right?
Yes, I'm really excited. I'm excited to take on this new journey at UNH and see what it has to offer.
It's going to be a lot of fun being able to see the talents continue to grow here in the state. You're one of them. Jessica, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
Always. I wrap things up in the CT Sports Talent Shows. Next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm a jury find them all. Good to everybody and be well.